All right, we are back for another Kronos Group podcast with yours truly, Matt Floyd, leading the charge this week. Jerry having some technical issues and he had to reboot his computer, but I'm here, he's here. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that was watching that I was the first one in the room before he got here. So just wanted to make sure I set the pattern straight.
I'll give you that for a change.
But yeah, I think this week, Jerry, I know we're prepping to go to Destin in a few days, but at the same time, I'm going through all of the stuff on the website, the marketing, the social media, and I think this trip is going to be good for us to really take kind of a step back and kind of evaluate what we're doing, how we're growing, and then essentially also coming together and figuring out what is the ultimate goal and setting up those kind of intermediate processes that will get us from point A to point B. Because I know in starting a business, there's a million and one things to do. And most of the time it happens all at the same time that you have to do the stuff. But tactically, as a business owner, Jerry, what are like the ways that you kind of reset a foundation when you know like something's like it's working, but it could be better? How do you kind of level set with a team or even just with yourself and saying, hey, I have to realign myself to these goals or these tasks that I'm going about this week?
The thing about having a operating company is that there's always pressure on you to have to perform and push. And so I think analyzing whether or not you're doing that, right? It's easy to get dissuaded from doing the things that you have to do. And then it's easy to get persuaded to do the things that you have to do. And what I mean by that is, in particular, because it's such a lonely endeavor being an entrepreneur, we've said this often, that it feels like you're getting the things that you're doing, no one else is having to do. So you're somehow screwing it up. And I think it's important, and I'm not sure this exactly answers your question, but I think it's important that people assess what they're doing as it relates to the business. I don't mean how the business is doing. I mean how they're doing. And I don't mean this as some sort of touchy-feely, hippy-dippy BS. I mean it as, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Are you performing at a level that you're supposed to be performing at? And then be honest about it. I'll give you an example. I have got a brand new company that I'm just putting together. I've got an existing company that I've been working on for 30 years. I've got a giant development that I'm doing right now that is eating up an inordinate amount of time. And I should say the other two things are eating up an inordinate amount of time. And then we've got the Kronos Group, which eats up an inordinate amount of time. So I'm doing 3 or 4 different things. And if I'm honest about it, this morning was a perfect example where yesterday I was like, I went out and I did my miles too late in the day. So it effed my day up, but my miles have to get in. I have to, the physical part is as important as all the rest of the parts. I can always go to the gym late at night. And so I was up early this morning. It was beautiful outside, right? And I enjoyed my miles this morning. My day was a whole lot more productive and it just flowed all day. And I was able to sit here. Now, I like going and getting up in the middle of the day and going in and doing my miles. But in this case, it got too late or I had other things in the morning. So me saying to myself, I got nothing done yesterday relative to what I wanted to do, but that's my fault because I didn't arrange my day correctly. Made the change today. I didn't go, oh, I got so much to do and oh, there's so many counting on me and oh, the pressure's too much and oh, the stress is too high. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't say there's too much to do, so they're lucky I got any of it done. You can't do that. You got to be aggressive with it, but you also got to be practical with it. You could say, Jerry, you spent an hour and 15 minutes out doing, your 5.5 miles yesterday in the beautiful 80-degree heat. Yeah, but that's part of one of the things that had to get done. And so I have to factor that in because I am better because I do all of those other things. So I think, Matt, the answer to your question there is just every day, assess what you're doing and do more. Assess what you're doing and figure it out if it's working or not. And don't make excuses about it. You got to just dive into it headlong. But restart your day every day also. So I don't carry what I did yesterday other than to say, God damn it, I was supposed to get that done yesterday and I didn't. I got to knock it off first thing this morning.
Yeah. No, and that's I think that's pretty much answers the question of what is that reset that you personally have to do each day. And I believe a lot of entrepreneurs out there will carry over problems from week to week, day to day. And it's not a matter of those problems actually going away, because they won't just go away automatically. It's being able to evaluate, hey, what is the most important things today that I can achieve to get done for my business, for my personal experience, for my health, whatever that might be. And then setting up that routine, knowing that there isn't a routine that fits everyone's, like, this isn't the perfect routine seminar or playbook. It is to each their own. What is that system that works best for each of them? And for you, understanding those miles, getting those in early, it's not that you can't do your miles later in the day, but you're more effective with everything else if you stack that correctly in the morning and don't let those pains of not being able to get to something carry over from the following day or the previous day into your day. And now you're thinking of it a different light of like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. Yeah. But approach it in a way that's like, hey, I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to try to get this done. Emergencies will pop up, situations will happen, but you're being able to look at it proactively than a reactive state of you feel like you're falling behind the rest of the day.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs, the name of the game is constantly having weight on your shoulders. So if you don't like having weight on your shoulders, if you don't like the pressure, then you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. So trying to find answers to the constant pressure that lives on top of you every single day is a fool's errand, and you will not be successful at it. And ultimately, it'll make the job that much harder. It'll make your chances of success that much more difficult. We tend to lose perspective on it too. I mean, if you have a lot to do, that's a good thing, as opposed to having nothing to do. If you have nothing to do, that's a bad thing. And so we get that. We think that we want to build this business and build it up to where we have nothing to do. Well, that just doesn't exist. And to the extent that it exists at all, relatively, like we see on social media that we're always talking about, that's unicorns. It's always going to take your time. So either you get used to failing every single day, waking up the next morning and jumping into it clean, understanding what you didn't do yesterday, try to get it done first thing in the morning. I try to do hard things in the morning first. I'm not always successful at it. Again, this is another one of those things, right? Social media guys and the big, multi-billionaires are telling you, just pick hard things and do it first thing in the morning. It's like, you MFers, you dudes don't do that. There's no way that you do
metal
that
for breakfast.
Yeah, there's no way that you do that consistently. It's just not reality. But I'll tell you, and even if it is their reality, I'm telling you, it's a very tough reality to do. You try to do those very difficult things and knock them out first thing in the morning. But none of this, if it doesn't happen, I wake up. It's almost like you have to forgive yourself for those things that you were supposed to do tomorrow or supposed to do yesterday. Wake up the next day, though, and take them on like they're brand new, and they have to be done. You don't forget what you did. I don't say that you make excuses and say, I got too much shit to do. I got to just forgive myself. No. I'm talking about start clean, fresh, new morning. I didn't get this done yesterday. I got to get it done first and foremost, attack it, and then move on to the next thing. And yesterday was yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be tomorrow. And right now, this is the hottest thing on my plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach Burt had a thing that he'd say, and I had to agree with it. And this way you just kind of clear the slate. In his mind, he always treated everything. He said it all goes to zero at midnight. And that way you start the new day with your other stuff. And there is something to getting that hard stuff out of the way. Brian Tracy has a book I read. I've read it several times. It's not real long, called Eat That Frog. And it says it just says eat that frog. And it said, I think it's something based on something Mark Twain said, if you got to eat a frog today, make it the first thing you do so it's out of the way. And he said, if you got to eat 2 frogs, eat the bigger one first.
Yeah.
So that's like the worst thing you'd have to do, but the idea now, our days don't always go where they want to, but I think it should be that mindset, because that ends up being the thing that you put off, but you got to get done. And if you don't have that mindset towards at least trying to do it, then it's too easy to put off. And the more you put it off, it creates the habit of not taking care of the things you need to take care of. And we get comfortable with our habits.
It comes down to, in a large perspective is just we forget that we need to be competitive and aggressive and have energy and run to our problems and attack them and knock them out like the pterodactyls to feed our kids and then move to the next thing, right? We look at these things like, I got to do this today. And that's the wrong attitude. The right attitude is attack, 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 aggressive, 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 push, push. Testosterone fueled anger and aggressiveness at getting the problems taken care of, and then getting up the next day when you F that up and doing it all over again. We don't do that, though. We consider these things to be problems for us, obstacles that we got to get over. Now, they are obstacles, but how do you attack an obstacle, right? As fast as you can. You destroy it as quickly as you can. And so this aggressiveness that we need to show, also a mindset where we talk about whatever it is that I have to do, it's never too much. Never. Now, it might be too much, but you're never going to hear me say that. I might look for options and ways to do it more efficiently, but whatever I have, it's got to get done. And if I don't get it done today, I'm going to get it done tomorrow. And that's for sure. Now, tomorrow I might not get it done. And I'm going to realize why I didn't get it done. Then the next day I'm going to do it first thing in the morning, pound it out and get it done. But it's always assessing, looking back at yesterday, figuring out why I didn't get it done, figure out what's important, what's got to get done, and then wake up the next day just ready to go to battle like someone's trying to steal the lollipop from your daughter's mouth, because that's really what they're doing. So that's lost in all of this happy new age social media BS, self-help, feel good about yourself, safe space talk. This feminization of society at large, men in particular have lost it. You just wake up and attack, and it's not working. Attack. It's working great. Attack. I have too much to do. Attack. I'm tired. Attack. I need to go to the gym. Attack. I got to pick up my kids. Attack. There's not enough hours in the day. Attack. Everything's got to be aggressive, pushed, attacking. And no matter what it is to do, I got to take a dump. Attack. Everything you go hard on.
Yeah, it's a defense mentality that I feel like this society has started to develop, where it's protect your time, protect this, protect your sanity. And it's like, well, if you have a 9 to 5 and that's your sanity, is just the problems that happen at that. And if you're if you're not an entrepreneur, but if you are, well, good luck growing a business, because the business world, neither does nature, operate that way. They're never on the defense. The only time they're on a defense is if they're being chased and they have to survive. That's the only time. Everything else is kill or be killed. That's literally the story of nature. So,
and even
how
if
are we
it's not,
to defend that?
Even if it's not kill or be killed, you gotta approach it like it is for you, because it is. It may not be in the the classic sense of the wolf chasing down the deer, but you need to make it feel like that. I mean, that was always one of the edges that I had, is I just wanted to destroy everything and anything. And then if I didn't get it destroyed, I'll get up in the morning and destroy it. If I didn't next day, well, I'll destroy it tomorrow. And you just start all over again. But again, it's important to self-assess and figure out why you didn't do what you didn't do yesterday, so you can get it done. But that doesn't mean you're whipping yourself over the back because, I didn't get it done for 3 straight days. Yeah, you loser. You didn't get it done for 3 straight. This is me talking to myself. Yeah, you loser. You didn't get it done for 3 straight days. Do it tomorrow, first thing, and jump on it and attack it. And here's the beautiful part. When you do it, man, you're like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I got more done today than I got done yesterday. That's how it feels. And it's only 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, to your point earlier, I was thinking, when you talk about not getting stuff done and, we'll try to hide from it. But the thing is, it's in our mind. And I use it in my sales too, as, people carrying weight and trying to ignore the fact they're like that. And I talked to them about, I heard it, and I thought that's a good idea. You're carrying a mental tax.
Yeah.
You're carrying a mental tax in your head of, what you didn't get done. You didn't do it. You'll try to self-soothe, however mean, watch a movie, relax, call it. And I think that's where a lot of people hide behind work-life balance. Well, I need to do my life. No, you don't. You're using life as an excuse to not get done what you need to get done, and you're hiding behind it. But the truth of the matter is, even if you do that, inside that you should have got it done and you didn't. And the easiest way to resolve that internal conflict, just go do it. To your point, exactly. When it's done, it's done.
Yeah, I think we need to change the phrase of work-life balance to work is life. And that's it. Because it really is. There's not one or the other. It is both. And being able to manage that is up to you. It's not up to anyone else to tell you what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, especially as an entrepreneur. You need to do that for yourself. And I was actually looking online at some entrepreneurs that have done kind of a time blocking or some sort of system to each day. And it's crazy because Elon Musk, he breaks it down to 5 minutes blocking every day. And I was like, well, if you're functioning like Elon Musk, you need to have extreme time blocking because his time is very precious and there's a million things that he's doing. So he breaks it down into 5-minute increments, whether it be Tesla, SpaceX, and then he batches those tasks together to stay efficient and avoid context switching. Now, for the everyday entrepreneur, they're thinking in their head when they read that, I need to be extreme time blocking. So they'll build out this routine. They'll think about the whole process. They'll build this out and then they don't do it. Well, then what happens? Well, today's a wash, or maybe I'll try it again tomorrow. And it's like, you still have the rest of the day. Why are you trying to build out this facade in your head of this is how I should operate because this is how someone else is operating, so I need to kind of copy and paste that same style? It's not achievable because he's been doing it for years. And it's like, you think you're just going to jump into that ballpark, and it's like being in the NFL and you've only ever played high school football. And you walk into a college or football pro NFL arena and it's like, all right, I'm going to compete with these guys. And it's like, no, these guys have been training and playing and doing at this level of operating at this level for years now. And you're just dipping your toes in the water. So don't expect to have the perfect plan because there is no perfect plan. It is do the actions and then over time build in the consistency that works the best for you. And as you continue to scale, that's where you'll be able to really you maximize your time, whether it be at the gym, whether it be with your family, whether it be with building a business, and you'll start to see those patterns take effect. But you're not going to build a pattern from scratch or by reading something online and then saying, yeah, that schedule, that's how I'm going to do my routines.
And here's what entrepreneurs need to hear. This is average, everyday folks. I say on my one-on-one podcast that I do with people, if we use a term people don't understand, I'll stop, because if you're in the game like I am and like so many people are, we'll use vernacular that people may not recognize because you're just not in the game all of the time. So along those lines, and this is one of those instances where you see these guys like Elon Musk, though, talk about this is what he does in 5-minute increments, and this is what this guy does, and this is what that guy does. That's not, those guys don't live an entrepreneurial life. Now, they're entrepreneurs by the definition, but they're not you and me. They're not the 30 million solopreneurs. They're not the 3.5 million entrepreneurs that have employees in the United States. Our lives relative to those people's lives are night and day. They are the 1%, both in business, obviously, and in personal wealth. The rest of us operate at a different plane. I don't care if you're a $25 million company or you're a $250,000 a year company. The reality is that your life is very, very difficult. They have resources and assets and employees and help and all of those sorts of things. So they're ruling over. Elon Musk, obviously works in and on the business in a way that all the rest of us can't really comprehend. So their advice to get people to do things for you and work on your business rather than in it, to the extent that they talk about, and that you're supposed to be doing that by coming up with these schedules and all the rest of that, I don't know how that's possible. Now, I admittedly have a very limited amount of experience here, just 30 odd years and $500 million in sales, running 10,000 employees, so somewhat limited on time. I'm telling you, you're going to get interrupted all of the time. So I don't care what your schedule is. I don't care what the way you put it together. I don't care how you want to try to do this thing at 8 o'clock in the morning. But the reality is by 8:10, the whole thing is off. And you may not even come back to that again for 4 more hours. So it's hard for me to take advice from Elon Musk in this context, dude, smart. I mean, again, the only human on the planet that I would fly across the country on my own dime to have lunch with. But they just live a different world than we do. This is always the thing where I start to separate from guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and all of that is they've forgotten, I can tell by their advice, some of their advice is good, but operationally, they've forgotten what it's like to be working in this place 10, 12 hours a day. So when this advice comes out from some of these, 100 millionaires and billionaires about how to run their business, I go, wait, I don't recognize any of the advice they gave, not only in my own business, but in all of the other businesses that I work with and that I am aware of. So I want to just caution everybody not to hold yourself to a standard that is unreachable for you, because we are all entrepreneurs in name only, but publicly traded businesses at that level have nothing to do, very little in common other than they sell a product, they bring the money in, they get the work done, the money goes out, and there's a profit at the end. Sure, it's the same business, but it's very, very different. And entrepreneurs trying to emulate what so many of those people do. It's where I start to get sideways with, what's his name? He does all the big stadium shows, big tall guy, gives advice.
Tony Robbins.
Voice. What's that?
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins, right? And again, it's just because there's this disconnect, right? He talks about, I don't know, I run 105 companies. That dude doesn't run 105 companies, right? He owns 105 companies. He's a billionaire. He's got resources on top of resources, right? Come talk to me, Tony Robbins, when you have to make a $200,000 payroll on Monday and it's Friday, or a $1,000 payroll on Monday and it's Friday and you don't have the money in the bank. That is what so many entrepreneurs are going to understand. Come talk to me when you want to buy a building, the one you're in, the lease is expiring and you can't get the other one built, or you can't get the other one finished fast enough. Maybe there's a delta on your cash that you might lose on a down payment. Now the stress is on while you're running your business and you're trying to do this same thing and you're trying to push to get these other projects done. I mean, that's real life on the ground, trying to manipulate and manage your way through the world. So if you can't get to your list of stuff that you have set up by 8:30 in the morning, chill, brother. Long as you're working and you're pushing and you mean to come back to it, because them dudes got nothing in common with you. I promise that, these massive lawnmower companies, let's say, just, they take care and mow people's front lawns. The CEOs of these big companies haven't mowed a lawn in 25 years, but the dude on the ground, he knows what he's doing, right? Look at his life versus the CEO's life. It's very, very different. And more entrepreneurs' lives are like the guy actually mowing the lawn than they are like the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because I actually have to go and mow my lawn right after this because it's going to rain all weekend. And I was thinking, man, it'd be nice to be able to pay someone to do my lawn. But that's the advice they'll tell you on social media from entrepreneurs that are at those levels, or business owners that are you can pay for takeout all the time. You can pay for someone to come clean your house. You can pay for someone to do the mowing and stuff. And that's great at their level, because they have the money and the resources to then pay someone with a less amount of money that they would make in an hour themselves to someone else who can do that low priority task that's not adding any value to their business or to their day. It's just a task that they have to do of just maintenance of life. That's great. And I see those social posts where they're like, you can outsource this, you can outsource this. Buddy, you got the money for me? Are you just going to Venmo me that money and I can just use that to then pay all these people? Because business owners don't always have that luxury. And so you're having to do that stuff, and that's not part of the perfect routine. Well, good luck. It is part of life. And to your point, Jerry, it is what it is.
I'll use that as an example too, that once you get that business started, the kind of managing you should be doing is, do you spend time once you get to a certain point? Everybody does everything at the beginning, that you can hire somebody then to come mow your lawn, not so that you can sit on your ass and do nothing, because you might as well mow the lawn if you're going to do that. But as soon as you can afford to have somebody come in and mow the lawn, have them mow the lawn so that you get to spend more time making more money, so that then paying somebody to mow the lawn is an afterthought. So you want to buy yourself time by not doing the things that other people can do for you. I've told this story before. My assistant 25 years ago, I'm paying my bills, I'm writing my checks, I'm sitting at my desk doing all this for my house and my home, my kids, and everything else. And she's like, what? And I had never really had an assistant before. And she's like, what the hell are you doing? And I said, I was paying my bills. And she's like, yeah, gathered it all up. And that was the last time I ever paid my own bills, because she's like, no, you need to be thinking about the company. We're at the point now, you got an assistant. You need to be thinking about the company. When there was no assistant and you're building the company, or you're starting the company, I should say, yes. But now I don't want you spending an hour and a half doing your checkbook and all the rest of that. Let me do it. And I'm going to go and do what I'm good at, which is doing this checkbook and paying the bills. You're going to go do what you're good at, which is grow the company and make us all that much more successful and that much more profitable. So there is an inflection point I would just add to that, Matt. Everyone does everything at the beginning, but you need to start looking at it once you're growing, right? What's the moment I can slip a few bucks off so that I don't have to do X? So I don't have to do Y, and either somebody else can do that for me, or I can hire somebody as a third party, either bring on somebody as an employee or hire a third party out to do it for me.
And here's a little tip. I didn't know this, but I realize it now. For young entrepreneurs, you want somebody, you got to get the grass cut. You got to do, laundry, clean the house, have kids.
Have children.
And then hire them to work for your business. Now, that's a whole nother thing that Jerry, you could go deeper on. Hire your kids, but have them. And then you've got that. I didn't cut grass for years. I hated it when the last one moved out. And I was like, crap, I got to do that again. I mean, for years, I didn't do it. It was just something that was off my plate. And at that time, I was working a lot of hours in the granite business. But I didn't have to worry about it. It was just done.
Yeah. I think for the sake of business owners, and especially the ones that are at the very early stages, to Jerry's point, you just got to do everything. And then once you have that inflection period of saying, hey, I actually have the money and I can be able to borrow and buy back my time, that is the win at that moment in your career or in your business, that you've gained that momentum from starting at zero and then now being able to afford these things because you're able to leverage these other assets in the business. But I also wanted to kind of pivot over to branding of business owners, because right now in society, especially on social media, any businesses that are getting their name and their word out there, it is around their personal brand and not the brand's business. And I say that because years and years, it's always been about branding your business, marketing your services. And that's all great for 10, 15, 20 years ago, because that's what everyone else did. But now the business owners that are really, from a small business standpoint, really exploding are the ones who are actually leveraging their personal brand and what makes them unique as a business owner compared to another guy who owns a mowing business or a plumber business. Because at that point, the consumer is just comparing quotes and pricing. But what would make me want to go with John Doe over here to do my mowing compared to Alex Smith over here when they both have the same price? Well, it's really, I want to get to know that person, and being able to get to know that person, get to know that business and what they stand for, their values, all that stuff. That's built through a personal brand. That's not built through a business, because a business is just a bunch of advertising, marketing for the services or whatever you're providing to a consumer. But as a personal brand, they're now connecting with you as the owner, and you're talking about the hard things, the things that you value, the way you go about life. And now they're starting to connect with you compared to connecting with the business. And I say this all the time to people that I talk to about branding and marketing is people will connect with people, then they connect with brands. Because we're humans by nature. We want the community. We want to connect with other people. And then by assimilation of liking that person, if they're a part of XYZ, then I'm going to start listening and looking into those other businesses or their services that person provides that I've already connected with. And so that's what we're doing with the Kronos Group and with Jerry's personal socials, is like really trying to grow that, because by nature, the Kronos Group is part of Jerry Brazie, just like it is a part of me and a part of Steve, but that's not who we are as a person. And people want to connect with the person And if they like that person, if they want to be around that kind of person, then if you're selling a service provided through your personality, now you've built that bridge of a gap that they've had from more of a just like, I just need this service, compared to, oh, I'm going to get this service from Jerry because I like him and I like what he talks about and I want to be around him. So that's what I'm going to buy into, compared to another mastermind program out there.
Relatable.
Yeah.
It gets where it's relatable. I could kick myself because we think about doing that in just everyday life that makes it more where people can like connect with it. And earlier this week, probably getting ready for next week in Destin, I decided to do a fast. I'm going to do a 24-hour. I do it about every, couple months, maybe every 2-3 months. And ended up stretching just because when I got to this, and then I started going with AI saying, okay, where am I at now if I do this at this hours? Okay, so if I do this, what if I do 12 more hours? And it got to where I ended up doing 65 hours. So I did it till last night from Sunday night. But the thing was that kind of brought it along was, and I'm digressing a little bit, was that the fact I could, and I've never done this before in a fast, but I kept asking it, what's happening now? What's happening now for a 60-year-old male, with my size? And it was fascinating. And that actually kept me going. That's a little side thing, but it kept me going as I knew what it was doing. Oh, this is it. You're fixing to hit the golden hour for autophagy, cleaning out, even at the mitochondrial level of the cells, when you get into that 48 to 60 hours. But back to your point, Matt, is that's what makes it more relatable to people. They're like, oh, I've thought about doing something like that. What does Steve do? How was it like? Now, kick myself. I could have, documented that. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking of just getting through that for just personal health reasons, just to kind of clean things out and clean up the body. Because I think there's a great benefit to doing that. And like I said, this is about every 2-3 months. I don't do that all the time, but for kind of a reset, it helps. But it does help if you kind of share the life you have, the life you live. It helps, entrepreneurs understand, well, they're just like us. They got things they're doing, things they're working on. It's not always the business, it's themselves. And I think it does make it more relatable than a lot of the stuff you'll see out there on social media that grabs the clicks because, man, that sounds fantastic, but I have no idea. It doesn't even line up with anything in the world I'm living. It sounds great if I get to that level. And I think that's what the draw is I'd love to have that, but I can't. So what can I do with where I'm at? And that's what we're here for, to show you what you can do where you're at. We're real dudes living real lives. We're all in marriages. 2 of us, soon to have 3, have kids, things going on in their lives. And, it shows a reality of how this can relate. And that's what we're shooting for, to your point, Matt, is we're trying to help people understand, Jerry's a real business owner. He's in the trenches now. He's going through struggles now with things, just have beaten his head against the wall with, especially his development. So he understands where you're at. He understands what you're going through. And when you go to the typical mastermind, you just get a bunch of information, maybe a printout or a PDF, emailed to you, and it's good luck. Kind of like a lot of the diet programs out there. Pretty much they just say, hey, here's the healthy foods. But you like, okay, I know those all look healthy, but how does it help me, 60-year-old, 205-pound Steve, at where I'm at? And good luck. I mean, you could spend years trying to figure all that stuff out, put it together, hope you get it right, maybe not. And one thing you want to do and working, with us would be the idea of time compression. How can I take Jerry's 30 years and compress it into a year of things that I don't have to go through 30 years, maybe not get to where he's at? How could I get that insight and wisdom? And then the collective of the rest of a cohort of that. And it's just, you don't think about, you're saving that time. How much faster are you going to be more successful, and how much longer will you get to enjoy that success? Just like with your health, if you get it taken care of, get serious about it, and get locked in.
What are your thoughts, Jerry?
Yeah, I think that it's almost the same conversation we had earlier. It applies in life, it applies in business, it applies to health, it applies to all of those things. You want to be, just to use health as an example, you want to be healthy, you got to do hard stuff. It's plain and simple, right? You want to be successful, you got to do hard stuff. You want to have a successful relationship, you got to do hard stuff. You want to have good kids and raise them right, you got to do difficult things. That is the reality. And if you aren't willing to do that, or you're not willing to challenge yourself like that, then you are going to fail. And the reality is most people don't understand that plane. They don't understand what that means. We think we do. We think, because we all think that boy, that guy who's in shape, he's sure lucky he's got extra time to go work out, or probably that's all he does for a living. Or, that rich dude driving that fancy car, he sure is lucky, right? Probably his parents were rich and passed it along to him. And or that guy's been married for 25 years. He sure looks happy with his wife. But, again, that's just pure luck. And he just got the perfect girl. That would never work for me. That guy's kids went to college, or they all seem like good kids, and they're around him all the time. And he talks to them a lot. And his teenager didn't go crazy like they tell us all of the teenagers are supposed to go crazy. Well, that's just lucky because he was able to afford things that the other people can't do. Again, this goes on forever and ever. The reality is when you get around somebody like the three of us and the people that we surrounded ourselves with, you get a way different story. You get a no BS, no excuses. Here's reality. I've lived it. I've done it. I've breathed it. I've got through it. I've been beaten down by it. I've been lifted up by it. I found the way out. I found the way in. I found success out of it. Here's how I failed at it. Across the board, all of those items. Add religion to it also on top of that. All of those things, you're going to be better if you find somebody else that gives you another perspective. But we hide from other perspectives. So we don't want other perspectives, particularly us dudes. We don't want other perspectives, right? Because we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to be challenged. We don't want to think that there's other ways of doing things other than how I'm doing it. Because if I agree to that, then all of a sudden everything that I've been doing makes me a failure. Yeah. And if you're trying to get something done and you don't get it done, I'm no genius, but I think if we look that up in the dictionary, it's going to have your picture as a failure. The question is, how do you fix that? Well, you accept that you failed at it. Go find somebody else that knows how to do it. Ask them a couple of questions, institute their advice. Now you're off and running. 2, 3, 5 years of you trying to do it by yourself, failing at it, fixed in a year. How's that not the absolute definition of genius?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and the sales that I do, see, that's the big thing that I push on, as far as how if you want to get somewhere you've never been, you're going to have to do something you've never done, any of that. Otherwise, you'd already be there. So, that's one of the angles I help people understand, because there's a lot of shift in perspective. It's so much of a beat up and people not wanting to listen or wanting to figure it out. And you can just I'll call them on it. Okay, well, I think I can do it. I know how to eat healthy, 80 pounds overweight. I'll figure it out. Been that way for 30 years, 20 years, and I've just gotten to where, you call it out on it because that's the truth of it. And I'm just talking about weight, but there's so much in business. Jerry, I'm sure you've met many people that can't do it. It's the customers, it's the economy. And all they do is have a little conversation, not realizing you're listening the way you listen to analyze. And you're like, dude, it wouldn't take much to turn that around. But no, they don't want to listen because they know. Because they make a little bit of money, they got a little jingle in their pocket, and they think they got it figured out. And that breakthrough is just around the corner, but they've been going around that corner for 10 years, and it's never shown up. How many corners are you going to go around until you finally just have somebody that stops you right there? Just do this. Let's look at it this way. But we fight that because it's so much of, ego, pride. And to your point exactly, Jerry, I've heard, sensed that so many times. Well, that means then I'm a failure. Well, you need to fix that first, because the whole idea is about learning and growing. You're going to do work. You're going to do it successfully. You're going to need to keep growing at it. You're going to keep needing to learn new skills. And if you're not in a place to learn new skills and new ideas, you're screwed. I mean, you really are, because all you're going to do is flatline. And the thing is time keeps moving forward. So if you're not moving toward a more successful life, you're moving away from it. How long do you want to keep doing that? How long do you want your business to keep kind of slipping a little bit, but it's okay today? But it doesn't stand still. None of it. Jerry, you can tell me, your business is either growing or dying.
Yeah.
It doesn't just flatline. People say, well, it's staying consistent. Well, then you're growing enough not to die. You just can't tell.
The mistake there is people think I'm doing everything that I can. To that example right there, Steve, you are fooled because you fool yourself into thinking that you're doing everything you can and that no one else. Steve, you don't understand, man. I'm working very hard every day. I'm here 12 hours a day. There's nothing more that can be done in this business to try to grow it. I know you're sitting here telling me that I'm supposed to be growing it, but there's nothing more that can be done because I'm doing everything that I can. That is loser talk. It's just not true. It's not reality. I do it and I go in and do it to other people. Absolutely, you're going to get defensive, but the trick is from somebody like me, many others, you're going to learn that you can't think like that, that you want to think like that defensively you want to think like that. But the reality is the value in what you have created, the value in this foundation that you have is now, how do I take it and grow and make more money? So even if the answer is I'm doing everything I can, well, then shut it down. It's not worth it. So you have two options. You shut it down. Maybe you're making a little profit. Okay, you keep running it. But the reality is you're supposed to grow it. So go find people who can help you grow it, move away. Even if you're right, let's say you're 100% right, you should be spending money on mentors to help you prove that you're right. So what I'm saying is always assume you're wrong. Always want to prove what you believe to be the truth. Always want to have that tested by people who understand, not your parents, not your wife, not your family, not your brother, not your brother-in-law, not the guy down the street, people with experience, not people you went to school with, particularly when we're talking about business. Again, if you want to get healthy, go find the healthiest guy you know and talk to him. If you want to get successful, go find the most successful guy you know and talk to him. If you want to be married for 30 years and it's been 2 years, go talk to the dude that's been married for 30 years and don't talk to the dude that's been married for 5 years. The guy that's been married for 5 years doesn't know nothing. The guy that's been married for 30 years, that's the dude you want to talk to. Got, 3, 4 kids, been around the block a million times. That's the guy that you want to go talk to. And so that holds true, absolutely. But we all think there's nothing that guy that's been married for 30 years is going to tell me, because he doesn't live my life and I'm doing everything I can at year 5 to get along with my wife. And that's all that can be done. That's where we come in, guys like Steve and I, and just kind of laugh at you and say, yeah, we know. That was us. That was us. We were there too. I recognize exactly what you're saying, exactly what you're thinking, exactly how you're standing there all bowed up, ready to fight with me over it. I get it. That was me. I'm remembering now. That was me. Isn't that cute? It's funny to see you act like that, because that's so cute, because that's how I was. That's where the experience comes from, right? You don't know what's over the hill. You haven't been there. Guys like Steve and I have been married 30 years. We're 10 hills over. So whatever it is that you're going through, no matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how much of a bitch your wife is, your kids are terrible, man, you got to talk to somebody with some experience, for the love of God, because you don't know. Doesn't mean the answer is going to, once you get the answer, it's going to fix everything. Might not even be an answer you want to do, but at least you got another perspective. And that's the value of mentorship in whatever part of life you want to apply it.
Yeah, it reminds me of that situation, Jerry. We had company over, you were over, and the guy was talking about, how he was. I was doing the gym, and I just kind of got out of it, and I was like, and he had a girlfriend there, and looked over, and he said, I was like, yeah, you met her. No, it's not that. And as soon as he was saying that, Jerry and I were sitting beside each other without even a cue. When I looked, he was looking at me, because dude, come on.
Yeah,
we'll freely admit that that's what it was, the distraction and all that, but that's to your point, Jerry. When you're young, you think, no, it's got to be something else. But then you look at people that have 30 plus years of marriage under them, and it wasn't even worth arguing about, because we knew we were right. But I thought it was something that both of us, when I looked over to you and you were looking over to me at the same time. Perfect. To your point, having that experience can help so much, if you're willing to listen. And the thing is as you gain perspective and as you gain the ability to adapt and change and grow, that's like any habit. You're in the habit of making excuses. So many people have excuses. Even if they say they're doing everything and I don't know what it is, that's an excuse, because you haven't invited an outside perspective. And to your point, Jerry, most people don't want that. They don't want that looking in on what you're doing. The thing is the more you get used to it, you start to almost crave it. You're like, I'm missing something. I got a blind spot here. Reach out. We do in our coaching. Hey, listen to this call. I did everything I thought I was supposed to, but let me know what I'm missing. And then they'll listen to it and well, you didn't create a big enough gap between where they were at and what you have, the value of what you had to offer. And it's like, oh, when you listen to it, but I wouldn't be able to, I didn't catch it for myself. And so you start knowing something's not working. I need to reach out to somebody that has an outside perspective, more experience. And when you do that, you realize it's the only way I'm going to grow and grow more quickly, maybe in a slight exponential way than just in a linear way of growth over a long period of time. That it's invaluable, that insight that it provides, even like here at the Kronos Group would provide in that, any group, in particular to ours, obviously. But you've got to get that. And it was something I didn't pick up on until later in life, the value of a coach. I was always, hey, I'll figure it out, without realizing the time I lost. And that's the one thing we only get so much of is time. You can lose all your money and make it back. But if you spent 10 years, you don't get that 10 years back. Now, Lord willing, you've got enough time left of you taking care of yourself and everything. So that's why I one of the big things, maybe it's just my age, time compression. How do I get this done? But if you could pass that value on to a 35-year-old entrepreneur and realize, and then once you compress that time down and what you can learn and grow in, look how much more time you have to benefit from it and to grow from it.
Yeah, it's the having the perspective, knowing what reality is. So many of us have a perfect example is weight. We have a broken idea of what healthy is. So we don't have a foundation for what we even believe because it's based on something that's not true. That's why I say you want to always question your perspective. You always want to question your ideas and be man enough to have them questioned and be able to really, with an open mind, hear other people's advice. If I have one more conversation with a 300-pound dude that tells me that's 5'11", 5'9", that tells me that I just want to get to 250. And I'm like, what? So you're going to work your way down to being obese and fat and have your legs cut off and die a terrible death, 10 to 15 years early? And they look at me like I got an arrow in my forehead. I'm like, no, man, you should weigh 180. So 180 is the number, probably 170. Right. I remember seeing this graph a few days ago that women today weigh on average what men weighed in the 60s, in the 1960s. Yes. Think about that. And so the average woman today weighs 170 pounds. The average man in the 1960s weighed 170 pounds. The average man today weighs 200 pounds. So the average woman in the 60s weighed 140. They now weigh 170. The average man in the 60s weighed 170. They now weigh 200. Okay, and we're not bigger. We're, average size of a man's about 5'8.5", 5'9". The average size of a woman, I think, is about 5'4", 5'3.5", somewhere around so we're not any bigger. That's what I mean by having a baseline where you tell yourself, I'm 5'9", I should weigh 170 pounds. But things get in the way of that. Our egos. We don't want to be told we're wrong. We want to be 200 pounds, right? We don't want to be told our business could be ran better or different, or that guy that you really like, you should fire. And we don't want to hear those better pieces of equipment, or you got to risk more and the payoff's going to be. You don't want any of that discomfort. You don't want to take on any of those things. It's very much like that. And so we should be sponges at all points. It's back to my, when you're 25 years old, you think your hard drive's 80% full. And when you're 57 years old, you realize that your hard drive is only 20% full. And there's so much more to learn. That should be everybody's mantra, is shut up and listen, and how much can I learn? And I think that ultimately is a superpower. When you get around successful people who think and talk like this, it becomes much easier for you when you are constantly bombarded with this approach to whatever the problem is: home, life, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is. When you're around people that think like this, you're going to find that your mind opens up and things tend to get a whole lot better because you're not looking through a tiny little prism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the unlock for me, Jerry, is something that you told me years ago. And for me, the last several years, it's been what has set me apart just in everyday conversations with people my age, is everything is your fault. And we are in a society that is the exact opposite. Well, it's so-and-so, or I didn't have the money, or I didn't have the upbringing, or I didn't have like the best case scenario that so-and-so did down the street to be successful, or to be able to not have to really work hard to get money and to be successful and all that stuff. comes down to just having that mindset of it is my fault, and then being able to build upon what do I need to do to fix this? And it could be around your life, around your business, around your health. If you are casting blame on someone else, now they have the power upon you. You just gave them the power. And this is something that Alex Hormozy said on a conversation that I really kind of like, it clicked for me, was when you are throwing out blame, well, it's my mother-in-law, or it's my best friend, or if it's my mom or it's my dad, you've now given them the power over you to control how you live your life. It's because of them that you're this way. So now you've given them the power, and people don't see it that way. They see it as, oh, it's an excuse, but that's really how it is. No, it's not, because everything is your fault. And as soon as you say everything's my fault, now you have that baseline to say, okay, it is my fault. I messed up. What do I got to do to fix this? And those moments of like that self-reflection are what actually break through. And other people that have never thought that way will look at you like you are crazy. They'll be like, wait, that's not your job. Especially in the corporate world, I deal with it. It's like, oh, well, that's not your role. Like, you shouldn't have to be doing that. Well, if something's not working, I see it as my fault. Well, how is it your fault? Like, it's not, you didn't even do the work. It's my fault because it affects me, and it affects the team that I work with, and it affects the type of work I do on a day-to-day basis. So yes, it is my fault. What do I need to do to fix it? The reciprocating end that doesn't see it that way, they have nothing to blame you for. Because if they sit there and they're like, it's your fault, and you say, okay, it is my fault. And what now? They can't keep saying it's your fault, because then they look like an idiot, because it's like, well, clearly it's your fault. Okay, I owned it. Now what are we going to do to fix it? And when you make that kind of a assessment quickly in their heads, they're like, well, crap, what are we going to do? And it starts to reprogram their minds. And so similar to what you were saying, Jerry, of being around those type of people that talk and speak and live life that way, that is the ultimate superpower of an entrepreneur that's trying to build a business. And when you are by yourself, you're going to cast blame on, time got away from me today, or, oh, my kid came home sick, so I had to take care of that. Okay. Are you giving power to your kid right now that affects how you perform on a day-to-day basis? Because it sounds like that's what you're doing. No, it's mine. It's like, no, it's your fault. Now what are you going to do to fix it? And when you hear that daily, and I hear that from you, Jerry, on just our calls that we have about the Kronos Group, it changes my whole outlook on every other conversation I have in my life, including with my own wife, where it's like, hey, it's not this fault, or because we didn't have the money, or I didn't have a job. No, it's my fault. How do we fix this? And then that kind of approach to everything in life, dude, it gets so much easier, because now you're being able to leverage this power that most people have in them, but will never tap into, because they're ultimately afraid of feeling like a failure or looking like a failure to everyone's around them. And it's all in their own head. It's an imagination that is going to separate those from people who are delusional and own it, that will create a reality that they've never even dreamt of before, because they just owned it and moved forward in life on that kind of mindset.
And really, to your point, Matt, and just to put on that, as far as getting help, this trip really hit a snafu a little while back, and my wife didn't realize the week she was picking, and ended up the week she was supposed to have off was this week and next week. And I remember she was calling me and talking to me, and she called me. She was sick to her stomach, and there's a couple things. First, the maturity I have in my marriage and relationship. Maybe 10 years ago, like, oh, how could you have done that? How'd you miss it? We went over the dates, and before I got the Airbnb, we made sure it was locked in. It's what it is. And that's the thing. The problem is the problem. It's always going to be the problem, but you can't focus on the problem. You know what it is. It doesn't help to beat it up, overanalyze it. So the first thing I thought of And it really was. Okay, well, this is something to overcome. We got to figure something out. And the way we figured it out wasn't like, well, what can I do? Well, I couldn't really do anything. So I told her, reach out to see if there's somebody that can cover something. And her initial response was, well, they don't want anybody to cover. I said, just ask. Reach out and ask. And so we ended up working it out where they got somebody come in, and the manager's actually will come back from a trip she's on for a couple of days and go back. But it all worked out. But it's because I have that mind problem solving. But we solved the problem by reaching out and getting help from somebody beyond us. And it made a thing work that could have really been a really messed up situation with flights and everybody timing and everything like that. So I use that to close out here, saying that, we've got to reach out. You've got to get help. If you're really going to be successful, do it quickly and do it as correctly as possible. If nothing else, get the advice of, this is what I want to do. What are the potholes? What are the pitfalls that I'm going to run into? If you could just avoid the pitfalls, that's worth its weight in gold, just in that alone. So reach out. If you're looking for something like this, get the help, get a coach to help you through these things. And then to Jerry's point, that's a wrap on today's episode. If you listen to this and you're wondering how to bridge the gap between insight and actually taking action, which we talked about today, you need to be in the Forge. Now, it's the school ecosystem, a community of achievers focused on optimizing business, health, and high-performance living. Now, for the founders listening who are doing $1 million or more, your biggest bottleneck isn't more hard work. It's the lack of outside perspective. And that's exactly why we built the Kronos Peer Advisory Cohorts. We bring you in the trenches with other founders to pressure test your strategy so you stop making those $100,000 mistakes in a vacuum. So check out the links below to join the Forge or to book a discovery call for our next cohort. And we'll see you on the inside. And remember, opportunities are everywhere, but you got to go get them.